For the year 2020, I'm making a video review for every new movie I watch, whether in theaters or at home, and on August 16th, I watched The Master. Welcome to my year in movies. This is Talking to Myself. Former naval officer Freddie Quell is having trouble adjusting to civilian life after World War II. His alcoholism, his sexual deviancy, his unpredictable bouts of aggression have made it difficult for him to hold down a job and create a meaningful existence. Nothing a little light Scientology can't fix. The Master is a 2012 film from Paul Thomas Anderson, and my goodness, what a lineup that is just allowed to exist. You have Joaquin Phoenix, Amy Adams, Laura Dern, Rami Malek, Jesse Plemons, and the absolute legend Philip Seymour Hoffman. All just casually in this movie. A tour de force. I am not big brain enough to fully understand the ending and all of its implications, but even what amount I could understand and interact with is so good. It's such a tense drama, and we're into it. It is such a great drama of contrasting characters. You have Phoenix, who is erratic and fidgety, and he's prone to outbursts. And then you have Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is controlled. Maybe he's not calm all the time, but every move that he makes is controlled. And that control that he has over himself makes it easy for him to kind of foist this control over Freddie's character, because Philip Seymour Hoffman plays a character called Lancaster Dodd, who is kind of a L. Ron Hubbard type. The whole movie is very, very clearly about Scientology, as much as they can get away with without explicitly calling it Scientology. But Lancaster Dodd is L. Ron Hubbard. But we see that control take hold, and the movie is constantly reminding us of what that hold looks like and how it's taking control of Freddie. And in some ways, we experience that mind control too. There's a really cool scene where after Freddie has kind of been co-opted into the ship with all of the other cause members, and he's kind of getting used to their way of life, he goes to this room where people are listening to Lancaster Dodd speak, and they're listening to his tapes, and they're like taking notes. And we hear that voiceover, but we also hear it combined with the score from Johnny Greenwood, which we'll get to in just a second. So as the music plays underneath Dodd's voiceover, you know, we're starting to internalize everything that Dodd is saying in the same way Freddie would. And so it's really neat, and it sticks with you in a way. Like, I still find myself, like, as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm like, man is not an animal. Man is not controlled by his emotions. And it's a little weird, but it's super cool. There's some sequences of the film that are a little disorienting, and it almost seems like they're meant to be disorienting. There's a scene where everyone's at this party, or they're not at a party necessarily, but they're all at this house that belongs to a member of the cause, and you know, Lancaster Dodd's leading everyone in a rousing sing-along, and all of a sudden all of the women are naked, just completely naked. It's not a sexual thing necessarily, but it's disorienting, and it made me feel like I had missed something, and so it made me like lean in more to the movie, because I was like, wait, what happened? I'm sorry. And that I think is a very effective choice. But to go back to the score is one of the most, like, that is the standout thing to me, even like on par with the performances as the score. And Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead actually does all of the score for this, as he did for There Will Be Blood, which makes a lot of sense to me because I loved the score for There Will Be Blood. And the same kind of discordant, eerie, unsettling, on your edge feel of it definitely comes into play here. And at the same time, it conveys this like eerie, uncomfortable atmosphere. It feels like an evocation of the scores of the 1950s. He uses a lot of songs from singer-songwriters of that decade, and that helps kind of color the rest of the film's atmosphere, and it's really effective in that regard. But yeah, apart from the performances, the score is definitely my favorite aspect, to the point where I want to actually listen to the score outside of the movie, which doesn't often happen. But the performances are tremendous. I'll get back to Hoffman and Phoenix in just a second, but I particularly want to highlight Amy Adams. She is phenomenal. She plays, I believe the character's name is Peggy, and she is the wife of Lancaster Dodd. Radiating big second or third wife energy, I have to say. And I think that's supposed to be the case, is she's like a later wife, because she mentions in passing that they always have to be on alert for ex-wives when they return to the mainland. While the real power play in the film is between Hoffman and Phoenix, Amy Adams kind of sneaks her way in there and asserts her own as kind of a third party in all of this, not necessarily in opposition to Phoenix, but in almost just personal opposition with Dodd. The cult-like language that Hoffman's character uses to kind of charm Freddie into joining the cause. That kind of language, the terms, the phrasing, she uses to kind of assert her own cult-like hold over Dodd. And it's a really interesting dynamic between them and between her and some of the other people she interacts with. And it's really neat. I really like what her character is. And I saw another reviewer talk about how she utilizes and almost weaponizes her girl next door charm, and that ends up being really effective. There's a scene where she's supposed to be like helping Freddie with concentration exercises, which are basically all of those subliminal YouTube videos where it's like, turn your eyes green by just listening to this video over again. And those scenes are super creepy because anytime she smiles, you know that there's something sinister underneath, but it doesn't look that way right away, and that makes it so much more effective and so much more memorable. Ultimately, the thing that makes the film great for me is how it gets under my skin. Just as I thought I was understanding the film and understanding the ending, it's like they jerked the rug out from under me, and I'm like, okay, I have to figure out what's going on now. Okay, I'm starting to put the puzzle pieces together. I just need to keep looking at this reference, and we'll get through it. And then it's like they remove the picture reference, and I have a different picture, but the same puzzle pieces, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. The ending frustrated me because I wanted to understand what it was. And I think that maybe part of it is I'm not supposed to totally understand everything about it. And maybe there's some big brain details that I'm missing because it's possible I'm just not 100%. Maybe I just straight up didn't see what happened, but I'm not 100% sure on what the ending means and what the film as a whole means. It's a more satisfying ending, I think, than There Will Be Blood, but I think as a whole, I like There Will Be Blood just a little bit more. It's that kind of frustration that guarantees the film will stick with me and that I'll remember it long after I watch it. And it's not an easy one to sit through necessarily, but I was never bored. Like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, like, because I just wanted to unravel everything. I wanted to understand everything on a very deep, fundamental level. It's not for everyone by any means. I think depending on what you're into, this film could be seen as boring, because it is kind of confusing and it's frustrating, and I think it's meant to be based on what its subject material is. However, if you're into the kind of tense dramas that look at the American nightmare, especially in post-World War II America, if you like the subversion of this American utopia, this is definitely a good film for that. It really does convey kind of the frustrations with trying to place yourself after this big war, this big purpose finder, and then suddenly that's gone away. What do you do after that? And if you're into cults and brainwashing, it's kind of a neat film for that too. But certainly if you're a fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman and you haven't seen this is really good performance from him. He is so charismatic. He is so good. Every movie that he is in is good, and he elevates it to such a degree. Oh my goodness, I miss him so much. He's so good because he manages to be cold and calculating and chilling and terrifying, but he's also so cordial and warm and downright inviting to the point where I'm like, I'm interested. Tell me about your cult. Tell me about your book. What is the cause? But I do think this is a really good performance from him. He is ageless. The whole time I'm watching this, I'm trying to like do the mental math of how old I thought he was, but I'm like, are you 50? Are you 35? Jesse Plemons is 30, so you've got to be like at least 50, right? I don't know. I don't know. And he's just so good in this movie. He is so intriguing, and that is exactly what he needs to be. I went on a very long tangent about it after I thought I was going to wrap up this review, but for Philip Seymour Hoffman, it's worth it every single time. He's so good. I miss him dearly. Not that I knew him personally, but he makes me want to act again, and I haven't really done that in a while, but he's really good. It's not as long as I thought it was. I thought it was like close to 3 hours. It's only like 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is long, but that's about the average length of a drama. So set aside some time, check it out if you're interested. I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure if I'll watch it again. I'll keep you posted on that. This has been My Year in Movies. Thank you for watching.